Hello, and welcome to EELE 101, Introduction to C Programming. Today we'll just give you an overview of the basic parts of a C program. The C interpreter we are using is CH from Soft Integration. CH is a subset of the C language. So here, if we kind of look at the overlap, this is in kind of what CH encompasses. It's nice because it has some plotting routines built in that a normal C compiler doesn't have. All the ECE computer labs will have this, so if you need to use it, you can come into any computer and it should be there. However, there is a free version that you can download, and having your own laptop with this on it is highly recommended for your own convenience. Okay, so when you run the program on your computer, you'll see an icon that looks kind of like that. So you just can, open that up or look in the start menu. So when it comes up, you'll notice that there are a bunch of these tabs here. So select the tab that says hello.c, and then you'll see this program here, and it's the Hello World program, which is, for historical reasons, is the first program you typically write. And then, because this is a C interpreter, you don't have to compile it, which you would normally do. You can just hit start or run here. Okay, and that will run the program. Now, your first programming assignment will be to modify this program. It will be a simple modification, but we just want to make sure that you have everything set up that you need to have set up. Okay, so what does a C program look like? Okay, so here is an anatomy of a typical C program. Okay, your code starts at the main function. Okay, so here we have main. This is always the first function called. That's the entry point of your code. Okay, so that always has to be in there. Okay. Now, functions are the building blocks of C. Okay, so you're typically having functions called other functions. Now, functions are made up of statements, and there are 5 types of statements in C. Okay, so we have a declaration. Okay, so we're saying these are the variables that I'm using. We have assignment. We can assign particular values to variables. We have functions. Okay, as we'd seen earlier, because they're the basic building blocks. And then we have control statements, such as loops, a for loop. Okay, and then and all which we won't worry about. Okay. Notice functions are made up of statements, okay, and they can be any of these 5 types of statements. One thing you should note is statements always end with a semicolon, right? So here, if you have multiple statements, each statement should end with a semicolon. And I'll bet you will forget to put one of these at the end of a statement, and when you run it, the compiler or the interpreter is going to complain that there's something wrong. And there's a good chance that you forgot the semicolon. So save yourself a lot of grief and always put a semicolon at the end of a statement. And now we have something here called an include statement. It turns out that there's a bunch of functions already written for you, and if you're going to use a function in a group that's already been written, you have to tell the compiler what you're planning on using. Okay, so when you open it up, this is what you'll see. So let's sort of walk through this program. Okay, the first thing you notice here is the /*, and it's color-coded green. That just basically means that these are comments. So the compiler is going to ignore anything that starts with a /*. Other more modern compilers will also let you do // and that will ignore everything to the end of the line. So these are just comments. Okay, so the first thing that it comes along, it sees is, oh, here's an include statement, and we are including standard I/O. Okay, the reason that we want to use standard I/O is because we're using this printf statement here, and this has already been written for us as a function, so we need to tell it that we're going to use it. And this is where the include of the header files come in. Okay, so notice the main function. This is where your program starts. And all C programs have a main function as the starting point. Okay, notice inside this function it's made up of statements. Okay, this particular statement is another function called printf. And then notice we're ending it with a semicolon. Okay, and in fact there's two statements here, both end in semicolons, and the second one is a control type that basically says, okay, return the program and return control back to the operating system. Okay, so let's look at this. One last thing is you'll notice these curly braces. Okay, in C, this is how you group statements together. So you're saying all these statements inside the opening and closing curly brace belong together. Okay, so you'll want to use these a lot in grouping your statements. All right, so let's go back to the include statement, which we're using the standard I/O header. Okay, now C comes with a bunch of standard libraries, and these are logical groupings of functions that have already been written. Okay, and if you want to use one of those functions, you must include the appropriate header file. Okay, and if you're an accomplished C programmer, you'll know what the standard libraries are and what the functions are in them in order to use them, so you don't have to write your own. Okay, and so your job is to learn a few of the commonly used functions, starting with the printf statement. Okay, so then the question is, how do you know what's in there, or what functions have already been written for you? Okay, well, this is where you have to look up in the reference manual. So the CH has a reference manual. Okay, so now if you look on page 759 in this reference manual, which you can get from the help on the IDE, or we'll also have that on the D2L site that you can download the PDF. Okay, so it describes the standard library, so that's where the STD comes from, standard input output IO. So that's why it's called standard IO.h. That's the header file, and that lists all the functions that you can use in there. Okay. So in that list is the printf statement. Okay. All right. And we are interested in printf because that will, prints the output to the console window. Okay. So then it's like, oh, okay, we need to learn more about the printf statement. So that's actually described again in the reference manual. So you can go look that up. Printf is used frequently for printing out stuff, and it's also a great debugging tool, so you can print things out as it's running to know what's going on. Okay. And how printf formats the output is described in page 372 in the user's guide, because if you have different variable types, you'll need to use different formatting. We'll actually do that later. But the point is there's standard libraries of functions already written for you. You need to go through and see what those functions are, and then if you're going to use a function, you need to get more detail about it. Okay. Your first assignment is just to add a second printf statement. Okay, and what you want that second printf statement to do is just to print out your name. So when you run, or go over here and click Start, okay, you're going to add another printf statement here that is going to say my name is, well, my name's Ross Snyder, so that what I would print out. Okay, and that's all you have to do. Okay, notice that the printf statement expects these double quotes here to specify a string. So make sure that you put my name, so basically what you're going to add is just printf. If I can, let's see if I can actually write here on this. So you're going to say printf, starts with the opening parentheses because it's a function. You do the double quotes, then you'll say my name. Well, this all should be on one line, but I'm doing it in a couple lines here. Is Ross Snyder. The /n basically means new line, end of parentheses, so that's the end of the string. We need the closing parentheses, and we always have to end with a semicolon. That's all you have to add, okay, and then run it. And so what you'll need to do is come to the recitation section, run that, show that you can, you can actually have this printed out, get your verification sheet signed off, and that's all you have to do. Okay. Now as we go along, sometimes you'll need more resources for C programming. One thing I should mention is this is not a full-blown C programming course. It's just a brief introduction, just enough to get you so that you can be, running your car. It's by no means a complete class in C. You will not be an expert C programmer at the end of this. So there are other resources out there that if you need help, you can go find. You can essentially go to Google and do a Google search of C programming tutorial. A couple good resources here is cprogramming.com, and if on the left-hand side there's a link to tutorials, you can go through that. There's another good learning website. It's called Learn Code the Hard Way. In this case, it's Learn C the Hard Way, or there's also Python, Learn Python the Hard Way. You can actually go get the text free online, but if you want videos where the author actually walks you through the examples, that's actually pretty cheap, and you can do that as well. Okay, so good luck, and show up to the recitation section and run your Hello World C program. See you then.